Hello and welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. Why on earth are people now moving to countries that are so foreign to them? It's got to be because many people's own countries are becoming too expensive. And people are still retiring and wanting to do all of the things they've only been dreaming about. We want to move abroad so bad that we have to ask ourselves, are we losing sight of what is really important when we go abroad? Yes, finances are important. It's a shame that these countries we move to end up getting so much traffic that they become completely transformed from a peaceful, quiet place into a foreign resident money trap. The funniest and silliest thing of them all is that these countries are still touted as having all of the benefits that they had in the beginning, thanks to generic and relative terms like inexpensive. Can we stop laughing now? Maybe you've seen this, but there are people that consider American large metro areas as inexpensive. To certain foreigners, $1,000,000 homes in America are actually cheap. Imagine that. And the thing is that last time we checked, this globe is not growing more countries, at least not at a rate that would be usable. And so that's what we get. The same countries touted year after year, decade after decade, such as, drum roll please, Costa Rica. Yes, Costa Rica. Wow, do you know how long Costa Rica has been promoted by the Retire Abroad media? Only about 50 years now. There is no doubt that Costa Rica has beautiful spots with great weather and the nicest people. But Costa Rica has totally and completely transformed itself into a tourist money trap. But many Americans are still moving there. Well, hey, it's still cheaper than Hawaii, right? We're not saying don't move to Costa Rica, but why? Just why can't we come up with something else to do? Why do we humans have to copy everyone else? Do we have so much wealth that it makes us feel good to do what everyone else is doing? Well, if all of those other chickens are going over the fence, the grass must be greener, right? What do you think? So, if you have your heart set on Costa Rica, don't let us stop you from moving there. But we have to be honest, Costa Rica is not cheap anymore. There's that relative term again. Boy, we wish they would stop comparing developing countries that have filthy water to the USA. Compare Costa Rica cost of living and amenities to another country with filthy water, okay? That would be more relevant. Seriously. The RAM promoters will still say Costa Rica is cheap. Don't you just love it when they say, a budget-minded couple can live in Costa Rica on $2,200 a month. Excuse me, but we can live in a quaint small town USA with southern charm with the nicest people, because we do, for less than $2,200. The options and possibilities in the USA are endless when you put your mind to it. So what's your beef, you say? Well, we don't have any beef or bone to pick other than accuracy. It's just that the Rams know that their particular audience is not necessarily budget conscious. And if they want to pay higher and higher prices for the greener grass, then so be it. Oh my goodness, moving on to our next surprising country on the list, Cambodia. Cambodia is becoming more and more popular with American expats. Why is that? Because of what we've already said. They ain't making any more countries, folks. Just like the little old darling Costa Rica, nothing will stay the same for very long in the juvenile Cambodia either. The age reference is to the length of time they've been promoted. Being in this travel and live abroad space, we see Cambodia doubling in price in 2 years and tripling in price in 5 years from now. But that's only for folks like you and us that are paying attention, because the RAM audience only always compares to something more expensive like Colorado Springs. Don't you know Costa Rica is still cheaper than Colorado Springs? Oh my. Why are Americans loving on this little country of Cambodia so much for? Well, we hate to sound like a broken record, but our saying, they ain't making any more countries, applies here. Perhaps Thailand has gotten too expensive for them. Has Thailand raised the bar for permanent residency? Yes, on both accounts. And when this begins to happen, people try and recreate what Thailand offered them 10 years ago before it became discovered. In the past, Thailand offered cheap living. Not anymore. This is why Americans are moving to these poorer countries where infrastructure may not be adequate to what they are used to. Here's what some of our viewers are saying about Cambodia and why they want to move there. One said, Cambodia, the kingdom of wonders. Another one said, go to Southeast Asia, the Philippines, Cambodia, or Thailand. All much cheaper and safer retirement destinations, and life is so much better. Cambodia has become a desirable destination with their over 55 retirement visa, which only costs $290 a year and no requirements. And so with that said, Americans are moving to Cambodia in record numbers. And we all know what the consequences of that is. Let's just say that it is an up-and-coming Asian country that will soon also become discovered in just a few years' time. If you have your heart set on Cambodia, we suggest moving there for a few years and enjoying it while it lasts, because it will become overrated, over-touristy, and overpriced, just like all the rest. That's just our 2 cents. One of the reasons some Americans move home after moving to Cambodia is it is a very poor country. Isn't it interesting how many ex-communist countries are very poor countries, don't you think? Do you remember when the Iron Curtain fell in 1989? The Russians were quoted as saying that it wasn't what they had that they were hiding from foreigners, it was what they didn't have. And in Cambodia, one may find that luxury condo high-rise buildings may be inexpensive. Yikes, there's that word again. To rent or buy, but not too far away is the stick huts that many of the Cambodian families live in, which can be intimidating for some expats, but a necessary and integral part of the local survival. And if you're tempted to mention the Americans living in tents in USA, you'd be barking up the correct tree, because similar policies produce similar results regardless of location and or borders. Because of the political and religious differences, many Americans may find integrating into Cambodian society a challenging aspect to their relocation, not to mention the language barrier. Cambodia also has an underfunded public health care system, which could mean not very good health care conditions and services. Try back in about 5 years after they've pumped up the system with foreigner dollars. And of course, again, we're not saying don't move to Cambodia, but we are saying really know what you're getting into before you move lock, stock, and barrel to Cambodia. You'll be glad you did. Moving on to the next surprising country on our list today, Belize. Surprise! Americans have been moving to Belize for a long time now because the people speak English and the weather, of course, is without winters. In fact, Belize has been getting promoted for years and it has never taken off like Costa Rica or Panama until now. We're starting to see Belize get more and more popular with those wanting to find a tropical paradise to hang their hat. But Belize has problems. There is the problem of crime against expats, especially in certain spots in Belize like Belize City. Crime is so fierce that the U.S. State Department has turned Belize City a level 3 and to reconsider travel. Belize City is not a place you would want to send your daughter or loved ones. The rest of Belize is also not that great, with sexual assaults and home invasions and armed robberies commonplace. But Americans are looking to move to this country. We're not saying don't move to Belize, but why would you want to? Sure, it's pretty and all, but that pretty landscape gets tarnished with all the gang presence in the area. And sure, it may be less expensive to live there than, say, Spain or Portugal, but not by much. Belize has gotten more and more expensive just because it's starting to rev up with foreigners who want to move there again, and it's really not that juvenile on the promoter's timescale. Just to give you an idea, here is a cost of living comparison with Portugal. You see, Belize is not that cheap anymore. Look at that comparison. For a family, it's only a few $100s more to live in Portugal. I never thought I'd hear myself say this, but we think Americans moving to a country like Portugal would be a far better option than Belize just because of the expat safety factor. Not saying Portugal is entirely safe, but it's much more so than Belize. In the end, you have to decide what is truly important for you. Living in Belize where you can save a few $100 a month on cost of living, or to live in, say, Portugal where you can feel a bit more secure when you go to bed at night. And then on to our next country, Vietnam. We cannot understand the pull for moving to Vietnam. I hate to say it, but I really believe people are still not doing their homework. Some folks become so wooed and awed about certain foreign countries that they simply don't realize what they're getting into. Politically, religiously, and economically, Vietnam is very different than the USA. Are you ready to deal with those differences? Foreigners will have a challenge buying property in Vietnam as it is mostly owned by the communist state. Politically speaking, Vietnam is still a communist country. And religiously, though, they say Vietnam is becoming more accepting of other religions. It hasn't fully accepted the Christian faith, and that is when the reality sets in. That some will eventually come upon a conflict with their beliefs and that of the country they move to, especially if you later have a change of heart. For most expats, these three differences will make integrating a challenge. We're not saying don't move to Vietnam. We're just sharing some of the great differences that Americans will face when they move to some of these Asian countries on a more permanent basis. Remember what is important for you or for your family. That could very well be a deal breaker for some when you actually look at the bigger picture. Because what a person is really entering into when they relocate to another country is that they will always accept that part of the culture and therefore are accepting the idea that they will never change their mind in the future unless they leave. The Rams love to compare these cheap, poverty-stricken countries for their cost of living, crime rates, weather, and healthcare with the USA. But look what you get. We have to look at the bigger picture. The saying, you get what you pay for, is true in its essence. Do you want a more complete perspective? Then just go as a tourist, which implies a very short term. That way, the only thing that is relevant is how much you will enjoy the enjoyable parts, right? When we first moved to Mexico in the 80s for our 2-week vacation, the only thing that we cared about was how much fun we were going to have and if we had the Pepto-Bismol on hand. And that was it. Well, that's it, folks. We hope you enjoyed this video. And don't let us stop you from moving to any country you desire. We're just here to give you a more complete perspective. Take care, everyone. Until next time, be blessed. Bye-bye.